Good evening and welcome to another Monday Night Live. Thanks for joining us. Simon and I here again discussing all things golf, precision golf and the world of golf. We are coming to you live every Monday 6 p.m. from Precision Golf in West Byfleet, Surrey, the United Kingdom, in this wonderful November weather we're having outside.
I'm very glad we're indoors.
How's the weekend for you?
Chilly.
Yeah. You watched Formula One?
I watched Formula One, which actually is quite interesting.
Yeah.
I think even though with all the bits going on of second and third and the drivers scenario, I thought it was actually quite most interesting Abu Dhabi Grand Prix I've seen for quite a while.
As usual, we've got the iPad to hand. We are taking all of your questions to the maestro himself, and if anything you want to talk about teaching or coaching, obviously throw them at me as well. And we've got James on drums as usual, giving it his all as usual. Less stress this evening. It's all loaded up beautifully, and we've got a don't tempt it. Yeah, that was silly idea. That. So do feel free, give us some questions. We will answer them all. This evening we're going to kick off with talking about some consistency in irons and carries, but first let's talk a little bit about Minwoo Lee finally getting over the line again. He's had a few opportunities, lost me some money at the Players' Championship this year, which I am not sore about at all. No. What did you think?
He's impressive. I think his games, it feels like this is kind of now trending upward. I think you've got the Scottish Open, which is his third DP World Tour win. Aussie PGA, it's a step up.
Do you think it's a step up from the Scottish Open? Do you?
I think in terms of what it means for him.
For him,
your national PGA Championship is kind of like
sort
of like a major-ish. But I just think he seems to now have that get it over the line game. I kind of feel like with the few years he's had in the US, I think his games. The question we asked about major winner wouldn't surprise me in the next few years.
Having spent a fair bit of time myself down in Australia, I was going backwards and forwards there for 5 or 6 years, playing on their tour down there. The Aussie PGA is a big event. They have the Aussie Open, and it used to be called the Masters. Yep. He would have been made to be a big billing. He would have been the not new kid on the block, but the PGA Tour player, the DP World Tour player. He would have gone into that making himself feel like he's the big fish. I think that goes into the melting pot of getting it over the line. I think throw him on the PGA Tour, going into the Players' Championship, all of a sudden he feels like a minnow. And I think that is the difference for someone like him that needs to push on and establish himself as a PGA Tour winner. I think that for me is going to be the test of time, and see how he can project himself on from this PGA Championship win. Yeah,
and hopefully, as you're saying, this for something like this for him could well be that confidence boost that everyone needs a little bit of chest out. And
100%.
Aren't I wonderful? I feel great. And I'd like to see him. I think he's got such a fascinating game of someone who's really long, with some of the best wedge play I've ever seen. I'm granted that I tend to see the practice shots he hits, but one of the bunker shots, it was almost just under the back lip and chopped it out. And he's got such a rounded game. It kind of feels like I'd like to see him progress a little bit.
I think he needs a bit more establishment. His swing needs a bit more establishing. A little bit weak through the ball. Nice top of backswing, pulls it hard, gets a little bit loose through the ball. We saw that on the last round of the TPC Players Champs. He lost his way with his driving, hitting some for someone that was leading. Really poor drives. I hope in time that he irons those out. I think he's got that very much amateur feel about him. He goes sort of swashbuckling, golfer, doesn't really play.
Maybe he's doing for that too much.
Yeah, and I think when yesterday, or it would have been Saturday night, wouldn't it? Maybe Sunday morning. He lost his lead early, and he managed to turn it around. I think on the PGA Tour that would have been harder for him to do. Good win in the US for the ladies LPGA Tour.
Actually, the LPGA Tour, I'm not certain. I was watching the.
Oh, sorry, we're talking about the ladies European. Sorry,
Race to Costa del Sol as well.
LPGA's wrapped up.
Yeah, it was an interesting finish with Anne Van Dam was there and leading, and 2 clear going to the last 6 holes, I think it was, and then she parred the last 6, and then there were 2 of the Indian girls, and her name I think is Ashwin, just left me for the moment, but then birdied 4 of them to just clear out the way. And 2 Indian girls in the top 4 on Race to Costa del Sol, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of the winner of the. I got to check it because it's Trichat Chinglab. Rookie of the Year and won the cost roast, and that's why I didn't. Yeah, that's why I didn't. But 1 win, 7 top tens, won the Order of Merit. So and so rookie on tour this year as well. Yeah. So I think there are some interesting ladies coming through. There's quite a batch of youngsters coming through. Yeah. So hopefully quite exciting, yeah.
Excuse the smirk, because I've just seen I Love Turtle. He says, "Good evening, Stadler and Waldorf." Nothing like two old men talking golf. Have a great show, guys. Well, thanks very much. Nice to have you with us. Niels Axelson, he says, "Don't jinx it, Stuart, when it comes to the internet, I'm sure." Mike T, do you need to set Trackman up differently for left-handers? Yes and no. Depends how big the hitting area is. With us here, downstairs and upstairs, to be fair, you need an awfully wide space to leave Trackman in the same set, in the same place. It is doable. Trackman will recognise whether it's a lefty or a righty, but in downstairs and upstairs, we need to shift them around. And just to give you some sort of idea of how wide our bay is, I'm sure Simon or James will know this anyway, but it's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, good 4 metres wide bay. Yeah. So you
and upstairs is the best part of 5.
Yeah, so you do need a huge bay to not have to shift the bay, the Trackmans around. Mark Griffin, no, you just need to understand that the numbers for path and face to path are reversed. I think he's referring. That's right, absolutely. Yeah. So a positive path would be an outside in path for a lefty. So should we hit a few?
We should hit a few, yeah.
I wanted to...
My hands have just stopped stinging from my thin darn shot on the first hole on Saturday morning. So
yeah, and I'm surprised he sort of calmed down after the 50 balls he's just hit. I've just been standing there for 5 minutes. He's just fired out about 50 shots.
That's why you had a bad back and I didn't.
That's true. So we wanted to talk about consistency in irons. And Simon, +1? Scratch?
+2.5 is the index currently.
Are you?
Very generous.
Wow.
Yeah, so, even surprised him.
No, it's good. It's good coaching, that is. Anyway, so...
lots of shots you've got to give. It's awful.
So +2.5, so +3. +3 golfer. I'm scratch, so I'm 3 shots worse than Simon.
He's too proud to take shots.
And
not getting any either way.
Yeah, but we wanted to talk about, if you were to hit 5-7 irons, and you're putting your heart and soul into it, what would be the consistency in carry numbers? And I think that's an undervalued skill for golfers. I think we get into a bit of a regime of when you hit a good one, you go hit it a little harder, you go hit it a little harder, and we forget that actually the best players in the world are actually trying to keep on hitting the same number. So 2 good players, we thought we'd hit 5 shots each. Have a little look, see what our dispersion is like for carry numbers principally. Have a little bit of dispersion. Do you want to head up first?
I think the other bit people forget is most golfers play for their best shot. Yeah. And I think that's something where the better someone gets, the closer to your optimal you can play for. But ultimately, your average distance is the one that you should play for.
No, absolutely. I'm just going to...
do you want some popcorn as well? Or?
I actually feel like I'm in semi-holiday mode now. I've done my last bit of coaching.
Okay, yeah. Ever?
No. off to America on Thursday.
Ah.
And that's it. I'm on wind down now. Got some meetings with you guys over the next few days.
Look at that, yeah.
I know.
Easy street for the next week.
I know. Well, not easy street. Any plans to collaborate with other YouTube channels in the coming year, either fitting or instructional? Good question.
We're always open to collaborations with people. I think it's something that we're looking at. How can we do more on the channel for everyone involved and get the best content for you guys? So certainly with, as we've done a little bit with the equipment manufacturers, some of those, but certainly open to any suggestions, but also open to any collaborations. Really.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our agendas, and speaking candidly, we've had some guests come on, and we found that us two, Stadler and Waldorf, we've created more interaction with you guys in this environment than having a lesser guest on, shall we say. When we had Colin Montgomery on, we had 100 people watching in. What we're conscious of is we want you to really control the content, and we are really the conduit to either hitting shots, leaning on some expertise, or whatever you wanted us to do. I think from a collaboration perspective, we can't get big hitters on the channel until we have more subscribers. And there's only 55%, or 55% of you that are not subscribed to the channel that will be watching this right now. So if you're not subscribed, do hit the subscribe button. But principally, the bigger a YouTube channel gets, the better the guests get. Yeah. So if you do like what we do, hit the subscribe, share it with your pals, and we're open to any collaboration at all, aren't we?
Absolutely, yeah.
Superb. All right. So what's your carry number for? Keep the questions coming, because I'll keep on answering them as Simon hits.
So I think if warm, I would be playing a 7-iron for kind of pushing 170. So 170 is kind of a max out, unless it's really hot.
This is a carry number.
Carry number, yeah. So I'd be, I mean, out there on Saturday it was about 150. But in all seriousness, it probably was about it was about a club less, about 160, 155 to 160. Whereas I'd be looking at probably in here close on 170.
Yeah. Okay. And differential, would you say, between your best one and worst one?
6-7 yards.
Yep. And how quickly do you know whether it's a good one or a bad one?
With about half a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the moment I make contact, because I know if it's a bit like I've been in here 20 odd years and I know what a squippy one feels like.
Absolutely.
I also shanked one in warm up, so I know what that feels like as well. So if it's that about 160 yards, then
that was your last one.
Get my retaliation in first.
So what was that out of?
Pretty solid, slight pulley, hit was good. Slight pull, I'd say that's going to be about 173.
I Love Turtle says, do we think that Tiger is going to win again? 177, that one.
Yeah, a bit of a pull.
Do we think Tiger's going to win again now that he's back? Well, he's not really back, but he's playing again. Yeah.
I honestly can't see it. Not after this injury. I couldn't see it. I doubted it before. I think the nature of this injury, 4 rounds against the guys he's up against.
Can we do A-time? Because my 7-iron's upstairs.
Certainly can.
Let's do A-time. Let's do A-time.
No, James is going to go.
James is going to go.
He gets his steps in for the day. It's his HYROX training.
Whipped off there like a cat.
So yeah, a bit of a pull. So that was, and I was also kind of semi-expecting quite a swing, but yeah.
And people
it seems strong, but yeah.
Again, the pull goes further because the dynamic loft is less, spin rate will come down, and that'll give you obviously the greater distance.
That was pretty good. I'd say that's pretty much on the nose. Straight flight, slight draw, maybe a couple of yards extra, but.
So we've had 177, 174, and at this point, you're trying to keep the club speed the same.
See, it's down. It's down a few feet. So, it's technically we're hitting down 32 inches.
Okay.
So it's about a yard less, yard gain. Sorry, I'm trying to keep the...
So you're trying to keep the speed the same, not trying to hit it any harder each time?
I'll probably, I guess in here I might free it up so get a couple of yards extra than on course, I think.
Yeah. Mauser says, Mauser says, so James Young says, hi guys, is there any players' cavity irons that performs better to slight heel strikes?
Slightly left, but that was hit well. Slight heel strikes, anything fairly muscle back is going to perform quite well because technically the sweet spot is very slightly heel side. So the less tech you get in the club head, the more likely a slight heel strike is going to be solid.
He goes on to ask, I play off 12 and for years suffered with an early release, which tends to cause slight heel strikes. Thanks, James. There wasn't a question, that was just a passing comment.
So. Maybe slightly higher flight, that might be a couple of yards shorter.
James, do you hit fades or draws? Let us know whether you hit a fade or a draw. So Daryl Price asks, what was the carry on that one, son?
That'll be a bit, that was 170, slightly higher.
Yeah, 170. So you've gone
77 as a pull, then 74, 72, 70.
Yeah, okay.
If I do one more. That was hit solidly. I'm going to go 172 again with that one.
172, bit of a Virginia on that one.
maybe 171. 171, there we go.
Yeah. So
That was more consistent than I thought it'd be.
yeah, that was consistent. I don't think I want to do this because I'm not sure I've got that. I'm not sure I've got that in me, to be honest. That's very good. That's very good. I mean, you'd be. I mean, there's tour players won't be any more accurate than that. That's for sure.
But I would say 5, 6, 7 is probably the best bit of my bag.
Would you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's one, Richard Ticehurst. On camera it looks like I've got the blade of the club at the back of the ball, like it out the toe. Is it camera angle? No, it's not deliberate and it's not the camera angle. It's something that I've just done over the years. I've used to sway a bit and then move into the ball, I think. So I've never really suffered janks, but it's probably got something to do with that. But yeah, can't get out of it now. Done it too long.
Yeah. 17. What's that? 172. Slightly more tricky for me because I haven't hit any shots, so I feel like I'm almost warming up. But
so what would your distance be that you would go to for a 7?
175.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, 175. Which used to be a 6 iron.
Okay. Yeah.
Like in old money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where the lofts have moved forward a little bit.
But I've taken these down a couple of degrees, haven't I? I think.
Well, actually, I mean, for you, we've always had to keep a bit of loft on
sorry,
them.
I mean add loft.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Add a little bit of loft. Yeah.
Oh, that one was nice.
So one very quick question, Daryl Price about woods. Does changing head weight affect spin forgiveness at all? Could affect forgiveness a bit more weight at the back of the head. Might affect a fraction of spin, but you've got to change it quite a lot. So if it's small changes, don't worry about it.
That one's gone a bit further.
78.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where that one spin wise. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
upper mid 5s. That one's a little bit stronger.
Bit stronger. So it'd be interesting to hear what people feel their dispersion is from a good one or a bad one, and whether they think about it or not.
I mean, I guess the other aspect in here, in terms of my consistency on course, you're not going to get this many perfect lies in a row.
No.
So that's the other bit to factor into it.
100%. Yeah.
179. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 175 is about my number, but I think like this just feels like I'm not going at it at all. Do you ever hit irons hard?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
There are times if I've got as I'm maturing, I'm doing that less and less.
Yeah.
But I've always been better at like a full committed swing rather than quietening off. And actually, as my technique's got better, I can quieten it off and not lose because I'm not having to manage the club face as much.
Yeah.
So that's made it a lot easier to tone it back and keep the flight square, whereas I had to go at it to square the face up before.
Yeah.
As you well know. So yeah, that's become a lot easier. But my default is always I'd rather go down and hit it harder than up and hit it soft, and kind of draw it in.
And I think that's.
But that might go back to what I
think you'll find that's what players like to do.
Yeah.
But guys hitting it soft, they'd much rather hit it hard than soft, right? Whereas amateur golfers are the opposite way, really. They should be hitting it softer. Tour players seem to have and feel like there's more control coming their way if they hit it faster, hit it harder.
Yeah, I think you validate this more than me potentially, but I think when the lower handicap players, I think you can put more power and pace into stronger technique, whereas the moment you want to put more effort into technique that's a little bit quirky, it throws things off a little bit more. So it actually facilitates going after it a bit harder.
Yeah.
So like the long drive guys go off, they've got brilliant technique first and foremost. Otherwise, they wouldn't hit the planet.
Yeah. Well, I think I've hit 2 at 171, 1 at 168, and then I hit about 4 at 178.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I part of that feels like that's a bit of a warming up process. But yeah, I mean, we're sort of plus or minus 6 yards.
But what that shows is someone that, and again, the kind of expectations that golfers have got to have going out on the course is, if you're, and this is the whole part of the strategy side of things. If you
do 4 iron.
If you've got trouble long, then take a club that can't get there.
Yeah.
even on a good one. And okay, you're putting from 20 foot short if it's an okay one, or if you've got trouble short, take a club that you know on an okay one's going to carry. And I think those are the bits that a lot of people get wrong. There are a few.
Yeah, good few questions coming in here.
fired
Okay, well,
in.
I've got some catch up to do here, chaps. So let me. We will get through all of these questions, so do keep them coming in. Daryl Price with woods, does changing head weight in order to get the correct swing rate affect spin or forgiveness at all?
Oh, that was one I fired out earlier on.
I beg your pardon.
Yep.
Brian McAllister, your live show is on the same time as Ian Fraser's at TXG. By coincidence? No, it's no coincidence. We are taking on TXG because we believe we do it better here.
And you all said you wanted a Monday evening.
Yes. Is there, sorry, I've just missed that. Ian Fraser's here. You guys should put something out together. Yeah.
Well, we did an Insta Live during lockdown. It would have been easier potentially before they were taken over, because there is a club champion UK, so that might present a barrier to that. That's the only thing potentially. Yeah. But we've known Ian a long time, and we'd love to work with him. He's great fun. Yeah. And very knowledgeable. Yeah, absolutely. Any thoughts on shot tracking systems, ARCOS and the like? Does the weight change do anything to the fitting of a golf club? It used to. I think now the bit that it does affect is like the grips that had the cap that had the little sensor in. You had to take account of that. So effectively, we'd build the club the normal length. That grip cap is about 3/8 of an inch longer than most. So the only thing you had to do with that is make sure that someone treated the bottom of the cap as the top of the club, because then it's above your hands. Yeah. So a bit like the screw-in ones, they don't weigh very much, so they're a few grams. But if it's above your hands, it doesn't create the same gearing as of the weight down the bottom end. So technically, yes, there is a slight difference, but as long as you grip it to the end of where the grip would have been before the cap or the screw-in, then no, not enough difference to worry about. And I think if you're a club golfer and you're looking to improve your game, if you're not using some GPS tracker, I'd set aside the distances, because it's only measuring your total distance, and you definitely don't need to get involved in your total distance. If you're not tracking your dispersion, I think you're absolutely missing a spot there. This ability to now, if you're playing off of 14 and you want to get to 12, to be able to set it to 12, and then it tells you what you need to work on to get down to 12. Oh, man, I mean, that is brilliant. Such a great thing to have. And if you're working with a coach, to be able to share that information is a great ability. Yeah. So I absolutely think they're brilliant. There are a few systems out there. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Right. So we're doing the same with 4 irons here. Little toey, so it might drop a bit. So I'd be thinking 210 on a good 4 iron. Yeah. That one's less. That was toey. That's going to be about maybe a couple hundred. Graham Murray asks, is there a major difference between the characteristics of a 60-gram driver shaft of, say, 5 years ago to the same weight and same manufacturer, i.e., is the tech really that much different? The materials are, generally speaking, a little bit better. They're always looking to utilise higher grade materials and work on the profiles of the shafts a little bit. So things like a Diamond Blue board, the stiffness profile in terms of where it's stiff and where it's soft, that stays the same, but the materials will allow for a more, in theory, a smoother load, a more consistent energy transfer and a smoother feel. But if you have a shaft which you've used for a number of years that hasn't stopped working, if you stay the same, the shaft's not going to stop working for you. So it's more the feel characteristics of the shaft and the inherent consistency and quality of them that's developing. Yeah, good answer. So you missed it a bit, 200. That was hit. So James Young came back and said he hits a draw. So if it, let me just clarify that. Yeah, he said he's a heel strike. So if you are a draw bias golfer and it's still drawing because you're hitting it out the heel, so i.e. it should be fading. If you're still hitting a draw, hitting it out the heel, you need to make your club face more open, and that will
stop you from hitting out the heel, because as soon as you get someone coming in with a face too, let me just demonstrate this a second, Simon. When you get someone coming in too much with a closed face to the path, and hopefully, James, if you can, oh no, we've got the face to path value up there. No, but it doesn't really matter. But if we've got a ball that's got a considerable amount of, hopefully that's going to bend left. Yep, there she goes. If you've got a considerable amount of bend left out of the middle of the face, a golfer will tend to try to push the path too much out to the right to fend off the left, which inevitably gets you moving more to the heel strike. So often, to remedy a heel strike is to fix the overdraw first, which will then make you feel more comfortable about moving the club and the sweet spot more around to the left, because obviously if your ball's drawing too far left, the last place a golfer wants to move the club is around to the left, because that feels like it would go even further left. But it's the remedy to the heel strike. So stop or reduce the amount your face is close to your path. That will give you the opportunity to start moving the club more around to the left and move the strike more out towards the toe.
Very good.
Cover that, yeah.
Perfect. So slight miss 200, good one 212. I'll do one more.
200, 212.
212 is a well hit one.
And I think this is, I mean, this is not a club that we're looking to knock the flag out with. No. I mean, if you're standing out there at 200 plus yards with a 4-iron off the fairway, I mean, even if you've got a perfect lie, you've got a green sitting at you, and you've hit a driver, it's going to be a hole in the region of 450 yards or more, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And so it's not a birdie hole. Are you expected to hit the green? I don't feel like I mean, I would like to hit the green.
Yeah, I think
but
it's
I wouldn't expect to hit the green.
On or close.
Yeah.
But I go back to there was a comment Nick Price made. This is years back, and he was one of the best iron ball strikers out. And even in his pomp, par 3, if you're at a 4-iron, if it's 200 yards plus, you can 4-iron or longer, 5-iron, 4-iron, just stay middle of the green. Just anywhere on the green is actually a decent shot.
Absolutely. And so I think that when you see the differential between like your best and worst on this club, it's going to be probably significantly different. So Mike T goes on, asks, lots of chat on social media on attack angle on short chips. Joe Mayo says you can have a negative angle of attack of 7 or 8 without taking a divot. Thoughts? So angle of attack is purely the descent angle. Whether you take a divot or not is purely the height of the circle. So you can have a club head descending aggressively, but if you've lifted the circle up off of the floor, you will still create an angle of attack of a steep nature, but you won't take any divot at all. So absolutely, you could have 14 degrees down and you will not take a divot. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, you know, I still believe there is still a lack of insight for amateur golfers out there that give them this opportunity to really open up the golf swing and see it for what it is. And if you go over and check out my channel, shameless plug again, Stuart Cartwright, Intelligent Golf Performance.
You can tell me you've got an Irish coach. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. That's very good. I like that.
You're quick. I hadn't thought about that before.
Yeah, shameless plug. I talk about all that stuff. Yeah, you say.
But I think that's because there's so many numbers out there, and even for me to kind of interpret that angle of attack and not taking a divot, we see things in 2D. And I think actually associating with how the club's travelling, and I think that's all. I think for the next step in terms of, you know, in swing side, I'm a consumer rather than expert, so not expert on the swing, but understanding it better by having it explained properly rather than just seeing a number and going, well, that's what I need to do, 14 down.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. 100%.
So,
and one of the things that I'm gonna
it's ruined my averages.
I'm gonna do on is a golf swing live and just talk golf swings and get people on and stuff. I think we need to be way more transparent. We need to expose the swing for what it is, and actually it's a much simpler movement to be able to play to a decent standard than people believe. I sincerely believe. Yeah. So we've got Mike T, Paul Barron been using Steve Johnston's Eureka Hogan method because it activates my hips easier. Is there a way of addressing the ball traditionally that activates the hips without a conscious effort?
That's way beyond my pay grade.
I'm not aware of Steve Johnson's Eureka Hogan method, so you're going to have to elaborate on that one.
I think some of it, I would say, though, some of it is some players are going to be able to stand the ball. Some players have different abilities, different leg and body lengths. So a key isn't going to work for everybody. If you've got if you sit at a desk all day, you're going to have restricted lower back. You're not going to be able to fire your hips very easy, full stop. So, but I think I would say if there's a method and a technique that has worked for you and a feel that's worked for you that doesn't, that makes sense, then stick with it. We don't all have to swing it the same way. You can see the PGA Tour in that. But equally speaking, one feel will work for me and another feel will work for you and another concept is going to work. But broadly speaking, most good techniques boil down to very similar principles.
Peter Cantor, a wise coach once told me I'd paid for the whole shaft, so use it. Why does Tommy, Lydia, Jason choke down, and doesn't it change swing weight?
As long as they're gripping it in the consistent place. I mean, you look at Per Johansson years back, he was sort of down here somewhere.
He was ridiculous.
But so in essence, if that's been factored in from a build in the fitting side of it, that if someone's always gripping it down half an inch, then as long as they're consistent with that, it won't change the dynamics as long as that's been allowed for. It's
a couple of four.
It's a comfort thing. It's just something that would have developed into their techniques over time. Maybe they historically used to grip down and felt more controlled,
100%,
and so therefore that's just stuck. So
yeah, there won't be a reason why they're gripping down other than it's a comfort thing. I used to always grip up the club like this, which I was coached out of. I think there's been a lot of people over the years that have thought if I grip down it, it gives me more control, and I think that's stuck more than people gripping up the top of it. Yeah.
Well, it might be that they had clubs that are too heavy in the past. Gripping down, it's actually helped. So that's created. Golfers are a superstitious bunch. That's created a habit that they've you'd never believe it.
No.
It's created a habit that worked, and therefore that's given confidence, and so that's a comfort blanket that they go to. So.
Yeah.
We all need help mentally in this game.
Yeah.
So.
How far were your 4 irons going?
So the Toei one was 200, then 212, 211 or 210, I think. I hit a couple of very good ones, actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
That felt a very easy one. I'm surprised it's gone that far. My back must be getting better. Or my club speed, that is. Oh, that one was out the toe. That one was a long way out the toe.
So that would actually be an interesting one to see. So the previous one was a couple hundred?
200, yeah. I don't feel like I'm hitting these.
195.
Yeah, very hard at all.
But did you, I mean, this is into my spin on a clean one was 4,000, just over 4,000.
Yeah.
So interesting for a clean one. This is where our games vary quite a lot. I think there's a question about 7-iron lofts, and mine's 32.5. Yours is 34, I think.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But your spin was lower than mine. I think that's the thing to, there are going to be reasons why we all have different setups of clubs, and so sometimes it's not even worth comparing and just going, right, does it do a job?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that wasn't the best either. It's not going to have a lot of spin on it, that one. She's a bit left. We're going left. I've got to hit a good one. She won't have much spin.
3,000.
Yeah.
Same as my 2-iron.
Yeah. Yeah, 4 irons aren't my favourite. Since I've got my hybrid, I really like my hybrid, as we talked about last time, I think. Might be a bit better.
Squarer?
Square. A bit better, yeah. It's a bit better. Yeah, still not a fan of it.
Yeah, what's quite interesting, so your 7-iron where you've got the loft and the flight, easily the equal of my 7-iron.
Yeah.
My 4-iron, where I've got more spin, even lower loft but more spin naturally, that carries a little bit. I'm just much more comfortable with. I had to actually loft it up a little bit when I changed ball when I built my new driver, because I wasn't giving up 7 yards with the driver, so I had to actually adjust the loft of my long irons to counter the ball change.
Yeah. So. KTM 300, what lofts are you 7 irons? You just answered that. Don Keek, which irons is Simon playing?
So I have a slight, I have a little mix. No pun on the pop group. So 5-iron to pitch. Oh, yeah, 5-iron to pitch. I play Mura MB001 blades, and then the 4-iron I've got a PXG Gen 2 311T. So I go to that one to get a little bit of tech on the face, gain a bit of forgiveness, gain a bit of ball speed to bridge up distance-wise a little bit.
Oh, hang on a minute, you've got a cheater stick.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, well, well, let me have a go with that. That doesn't seem fair to me.
It's got less loft than yours, remember?
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
It'll
Well, I put it
interesting
up to
though.
about 22.5.
That'll be interesting though, won't it, from a spin perspective? Oh, I like that grip. Is that new?
No.
Goodness me.
No, they last a long time. So the grip, for those that were interested, is the Sonar Calibrate Tor Sonar Calibrate, which is reduces the tapering a little bit, but it's not rubber, so it's got a different polymer. It's got a bit of tread to it. So I used to play the Tor Velvets. Didn't feel like I got quite enough purchase from them, but I hate cords. I've got delicate hands and they rip up. So that gives me a nice difference in terms of a little bit of tread, a little bit of grip, but a softer feel.
I really like that.
Particularly nice this time of year.
That's not got a lot of spin on it, Simon.
2.8, no. No, but it's actually 1,400 revs. It's a 50% or 30% difference in spin.
Yeah. I'm going to try and add a bit more loft on this and try and get a bit more spin. Oh, no, not out the toe. Not out the toe. But I tell you what, that feels all right.
Yeah.
To be fair.
What's nice about that with the infill, it still feels
like
soft
that.
without losing tech. So
that's a nice grip as well. That's a nice grip. What else
there
have we
you
got
go.
coming in? Dave Hurley, evening chaps, evening to you. Matt Hyatt, one of our fitters. Good evening, Matt. Excited.
Does this mean you're on time for your flight?
Is he flying out somewhere?
Flying back in tonight.
Right. Where's he been?
Copenhagen.
Has he?
Yeah. Gaming, I believe, or something like that. He went to watch something, I think.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
He's a big gamer, isn't he?
Yeah.
Are we excited to see Tiger at the Hero Challenge next week?
Yeah. Ultimately, it's always exciting. There's always an extra level when he's in there. I just hope he's half decent.
It's sort of worn off for me. It's sort of worn off. It's like...
I can tell by the way you asked the question.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. You know...
Well, he's hosting this week as well, isn't he?
Yeah. I think he should hang it up. I really do. Because I find it hard to watch someone of how good he's been. I mean, he's broken, right?
Yeah.
I mean, his body can't do it. Even if he shoots 65 first round, chances of him being able to run that tightrope for 4 rounds, I think he's got the game. But I think he's a shadow of his former self.
I think the body bit, the physical bit's the hard bit. Yeah.
When we saw him go through that short game debacle, when he was flitting around with a few different coaches, I think that had nobody really talks about that, but I think that had a big drain on him as well. So I find it. I'd rather him just be there, hanging out, speaking to the camera, doing the odd shot or so. I'm not sure I'm that fussed on watching him as playing as much as back in the day.
But if he's playing well, you get excited and watch it.
No, because like if he plays well,
because you're then saying, when's it going to come?
When's it going to come back? You know, and it feels like it's a little bit like Lewis Hamilton. You know, when he's battling with his car now. I mean, yesterday after the race, sorry to talk F1 if you're not an F1 fan, but after the race, I mean, Toto was very upbeat about the car in the next year. Lewis was like, I can't see it being any better, sort of thing. And I think when a player is, or an athlete is not at this full capacity anymore, I think it's very easy for them to lose interest and project that. And I think when Tiger goes out and doesn't play so well, I think it hurts him too much. And there's a lot of excuses that come out, I just didn't have it today and all that kind of stuff, where you know deep down he's really hurting. And I don't think when someone's been that good, it's like, oh man, don't do it to yourself. We love you.
Yeah. They always say it's hardest thing is for someone at the top to go out at the right time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, hanging them up when you've done well, and that's where you know there's been golfers over there over the years that have sort of checked out when they've been doing well. They haven't made a big song and dance about it. They've just. But I think when you've got these real ambassadors for the game, like Tiger is. It's tough to step down.
There's an expectation for them to keep going. Yeah.
So who have we got up next? We've got Church of Golf. Okay, that's a nice title. When you settle on a swing weight for a customer during a fitting, do you build the irons with the identical swing weight? Same question for woods, hybrids and wedges. Big question, Soz.
So no, it's okay. The woods are easy because you fit those ones individually. They are quite different creatures, so we'll individually swing weight each of those in the fit. And with the irons, there's the odd exception, but generally speaking, once you get the 6-iron swing weight, there's a slight progression in swing weight off that. So it's generally 0.2 to 0.3, so 0.5 of a swinging point every other club. On a very odd occasion, you get someone who is and I mean ridiculously sensitive to swing weight. And I had a chap, Barton, if he's watching, he genuinely, his swing is affected by 0.1, 0.2 of a swing weight point. So in certain instances where it is so sensitive, what you have to do is when someone collects, you have to individually swing weight each club when they're collecting, because 0.1 throws it off. And that is, I can do it with my own stuff, and I can feel it, but it was really interesting. I'm
like that with my burgers. You know, if there's just a touch too much relish on there, it just throws my stomach out.
Sensitive soul. Sorry, your gut.
Niels Axelson, do you see any difference in Trackman readings when using RCT balls as opposed to other standard balls? Good question.
The spin number's more consistent, so obviously they've been designed with that in mind, and that has made the RCT balls pretty darn bulletproof.
Yeah,
whether we're now more sensitive to seeing an italic on one of the other golf balls, because we just don't see it with the Pro V1, Pro VX, Left Dash and AVX. So we see the odd one where it guesses the italic on the spin on a non-RCT ball. But even so, I was doing some with the Bridgestone ball today with the client, and that it's still very, very good. I think the RCTs just spoiled us in the same way at Ferrero Rocher.
when you love Ferrero Rocher, have you seen their new chocolate bar, Ferrero Rocher?
No, I need to check this out.
Oh my God, they do a Ferrero Rocher chocolate bar. James knows them, he has about 6 a day. Just giving me the wink. Yeah, get on to those. Ferrero Rocher. Yeah, Mark's have eaten those as well. What was I going to say? What were we talking about before that? Ferrero Rocher was
swing weight.
Swing weight, driver, balls. Yeah, yes. I think that people don't appreciate when there's a 1,000 rev difference on the italic, when it guesstimates how much it can affect a sudden jump in distance. You know, so it's really sensitive. So if you're using a Trackman sim or Trackman Bay and doing your yardages, a gap in on your own maybe, if you see the spin numbers in italic, they'll be angular, as you know. Don't take that as a number because that will be guessed and it won't be accurate.
Often it'll guess, you get the odd half measure, but often it'll guess high, so normally guess short. But occasionally you get the odd half measure, and then your 6-iron will go 210 instead of 175.
Don Keek, you do it better than TXG, just my opinion.
Very kind, thank you very much. This is a
Morecambe and Wise.
Big compliment. Yeah, Staten and Waldorf.
Michael Barber. Hi, should golfers of all abilities be fitted for a ball?
Should golfers of all... you can always find an argument to say yes. I mean, the absolute minimum is play a consistent ball. That absolutely. And then really, it depends a little bit on how much you want to spend on the balls as to how much minutiae you want to get into. But technically, fitting for a ball will allow you to optimise closer to the green or dispersion off the tee, essentially long game dispersion or accuracy from a spin point of view with the wedges. So, and then you can dial into optimised spin for driver and mid irons as well. So, depending on how much you want to dial into it, everyone can benefit from it. But whatever you do, try and play a consistent ball round to round.
Yeah, and it helps short game as well. Because when you're chipping around the greens, the acoustic nature of the chip shot, you'll start to tap into that with your feels. So when you hear a big click or low click, it kind of gives you feel. So playing the same ball is really important. Really important. Good advice there, Simon. Mauser, hopefully no plans for Precision Golf to do a TXG and become part of club champion, I hope, question mark.
Well, they've acquired someone in the UK anyway,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah.
There's only one Precision Golf. We're not going anywhere. Nip that into the bud. Chris Parker, thank you for the great show. And why do you both use steel shafts? Good question.
So, I mean, functionally...
There you go.
Yeah. Functionally, so there are two elements. In shafts, there's dead weight and there's balance point. And for both of us, so shaft weight, I'm in a 114 gram shaft, you're on a 120 gram shaft. And there are graphite shafts, because he's bigger and stronger than me. There are graphite shafts that are that weight, but the balance point changes quite a bit. And so ultimately, for anyone playing any shaft, it's dead weight is effectively matching the inertia in the club with energy in from the player. So if you get that right, then you and the club move from the top as a unit, and then balance point is how you time the hit. It's how you use your hands through the ball. So the combination of the two, we're going to see more composites on tour over the coming years, but that's why anyone uses any shaft. And so for us, just the steel shafts match up better.
Thank you for answering that, Simon, because I had no clue. I just get told what to hit when I get fitted. That's best for me. Niels Axelson, Arcos is brilliant. I agree. It has helped me so much to improve understanding my actual game. The virtual caddy is very helpful as well, Stuart, suggesting typical length, taking weather into account. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of them give you a strategy on holes as well. They'll tell you kind of relative to your distances what an optimal way of playing a course is. Yeah. Obviously, you can't use it in tournament play. Yeah. But yeah.
We have an Australian viewer. Fantastic. Simon, good morning from Australia. Where in Australia are you? It is currently 4:30 a.m. What advice can you offer to someone wanting to get into the fitting business? I have basic equipment and access to a driving range and Trackman.
This goes back to the, oh my God, it's early, 0400. Very good morning to you. It's a difficult one, because getting into club building and club fitting, there aren't any easy routes in. So either there's a PGA certified route where there's training, but some of that is not, it doesn't get to this kind of standard. It's quite general. And outside of, there's the odd, so like Diamond Golf in the UK do courses on club building, club fitting, but it's a difficult one because there aren't many official routes in. The best thing you can do is find someone that does it and see if you can do some work experience with them or train with them, or But from our point of view, that can be difficult if you're operating at full tilt. You don't have time to train someone alongside doing your day job. So it is very niche and it is quite hard. Ultimately, getting as much equipment in hand and testing it and trying it and going, right, this is the difference of this, what does it do for my game and my swing and timing and shot patterns, that's probably going to tell you as much as yes, read up on the specs and things, but getting equipment in hand and hitting it and testing it, that's your best start point to learning from a fitting standpoint. That as much information as possible is essentially the first route in.
And I would suggest that, I mean, someone like a high street brand, like an American Golf, they'll always put something out there. We're looking for a fitter. They'll probably say no experience needed. That would be a good way to get a foot in the door. That says a lot about how we differ from a fitting experience. Obviously, American Golf, they would take someone on, train them up. That might be a good stepping stone into getting into the door. Then you might want to potentially look at going to a Cobra or TaylorMade, maybe doing their fitting truck, traveling around on that. And then you might get some insights onto the tour, and then maybe working with some players. And all the time you're learning about product and hitting shots and stuff like that. And then at that point you've got had some repartee with customers, then with particular brands, and then all of a sudden you've got maybe 5, 6, 7 years of experience under your belt, and then all of a sudden you're an attractive proposition that have got a good grounding of the fitting experience. So but there isn't a way in, right? The
difficult bit is it's an experience based profession, and it's one of those. that vicious circle. If you haven't got experience, how do you get experience? But ultimately, yeah, to get to any kind of level, it's a lot of reps, watching a lot of people in the bay, testing things out and seeing how different players react to different things, and learning why that all happens. It's not something you can just, you know, read or do an exam paper, tick a box and go, because you still won't know how one change applies to different people. So it's tough because it's very experience led.
James Young, would heavier iron shafts, swing weight help with an early release? I played 130 gram shafts for years before recently moving to 115 gram.
Sometimes it can do the opposite. You know, for example, if you go heavier, what can happen is, make sure I don't hit Stuart in the face,
that's right.
is that actually, you know, from the top, if the club gets behind you, you move, then that's your way in. So that then gets stuck and then it can flip. So sometimes actually going lighter in the shaft can help create gets the handle coming with you, which helps to get it leading the club head into the ball, and you can then use head weight to create that lag and that late hit. But often an early release is because the club's not come with someone, then they've got to do that to get it through. So it's actually more of a catapult than a flip.
Very good. John Bishop, now we're talking, can you get Trackman Maestro in the studio? Maybe one day, who knows? Who knows?
I'm sure we can get them in.
Paul Barron, Hogan method is no open hips as you go through the bag. No, it's no open hips as you go through the bag. Do you mean at address or impact? Paul, let us know. Alexander Ward, evening gents. Stuart, any tips for someone struggling to translate their game from the range Trackman to the course? Mental thing or just poor technique getting shown up? I would say poor technique getting shown up. I'd also go with alignment. It's always a biggie. As basic as it sounds, you can have someone standing here in a bay that's very squared off, and then you get them to stand on the first tee, and you're aiming hugely different to what you might be on the mat here. So I would say that would be the first port of call, just going something silly like putting a club down in the bay where you're having a really good session, then picking that up, going onto the first tee, setting yourself up to your target, club down across your feet, and running your lines off of there. That would be my first port of call. Very, very rarely, if you're delivering good movement, good attack angles, good numbers in here, and you're hitting it like the red arrows on the golf course, it's unusual, and it would be a setup. So if the Trackman data is good, definitely check your setup first. That would be my opinion. Norwegian Warhound, that never gets old. That
no,
never gets old.
Never
Gets old. Any more word on the new?
You've got a helmet with that.
Yeah, that's all I picture. Yeah. Any more word on the new Blueprint cavity irons? While I'm at it, I'll throw in a shameless plug for a Precision Golf Norwegian Warhound collaboration. Got to head back to work. Best wishes, fellas.
Absolutely up for that. Any more word on the new Blueprint irons? The word on the new Blueprint irons is that allegedly that they're coming in the new year, and I can talk about them most likely in January.
Or else we get shot and our account taken away. We've got 6 minutes, so if you want anything for us to hit or do, we'll do. We always stick strictly to 1 hour. Don Keek, if I go for a fitting with you, what do you mean, first of all, if? You mean when? How long would it take before my clubs are ready? Asking because I want to go to England for a week of golf.
So for us at the moment, for an individual club can be down at a few weeks, but generally we're looking at 4 or 5 weeks at the moment for delivery.
But we ship across the world.
But we can ship globally, yeah. So yeah, and in terms of if we're shipping globally, then there's no UK VAT because of import duties and things. So yeah, so currently the window would be 4 to 6 weeks. There might be, depending on when you come over and product launch times and availability, there can be, when a product freshly launches, so sort of early mid-Feb, there can be some slight delays based on how many they predicted they were going to sell versus how many they sell and replenishment. So normally between sort of February, March time, there can be some slight delays depending on initial shipments.
Liam Hancock, evening gents. Any tips, drills to decrease dynamic loft? Don't want to go down the Bryson de-lofting route in irons as I'm already at 28 degrees with a 6-iron. Are you talking about with your golf swing?
I would assume so, yeah, because he doesn't want to use the loft. I mean, so Bryson only uses loft because he hits it so darn hard, they'd go too high. Yeah. So for him, he has to go low loft to keep the flight where we want it. But.
So decreasing dynamic loft can be done a couple of ways. The way that most people go about it is dropping the ball back in your stance, which is obviously a nasty way, very crude way, because inevitably you start to really hit it more offline and your swing suffers because you feel like you're not going to get any flight. But principally, to create less dynamic loft, you have to have more forward shaft lean. And unfortunately, forward shaft lean is seen by pushing the handle forwards. But actually, when you move the handle forwards, you actually have to move the handle in as well. Because if I create greater shaft lean at address, that face is square, but look how far left my handle has to do, or has to go rather, to make that straighten up. So if you're looking to decrease dynamic loft, you want to make your right shoulder feel like it's coming around the golf ball more. So if your right shoulder is going to come around the golf ball more to create more shaft lean, you better make sure that that left hip is getting out the way. So a really nice way of doing it is to hit balls flat-footed. So ball in the regular position, hitting balls flat-footed. And when you hit them flat-footed, you're looking to make your right arm feel like it's finishing a little bit lower and across your chest. And by doing that, you'll actually create the handle working a bit more in because you've now kept it lower than your shoulders. And by making the right shoulder come around because your feet are flat on the floor rather than driving forwards, which keeps the right shoulder back, that'll decrease your dynamic loft. Give it a go.
And he hit the green.
And he hit the little chip shot, you know, nothing done on the shot for me. Brian McAllister, Simon, interested to hear your thoughts on MOI matching irons rather than swing weight matching. To me, it just makes so much more sense. MOI matching, so your effort with each club is more similar.
So I'll keep this one brief, but swing weight matching doesn't work because they're heavier in the long irons, lighter in the short irons from a field point of view. The only problem with MOI matching is that your swing speed and effort level does change. So you swing it harder in the long irons because you know you're hitting it further. Even Bryson, who tried to put the same swing on with the same length club, his swing speed progressed because you can't stop yourself from hitting it harder the further the distances you got to go. So, but either a progressed swing weight or MOI matching is definitely a better way than flatline swing weighting for sure.
Very good indeed. I keep losing my Tim G. How do you find the 115 gram-ish shaft in the 8 to pitching with? Have you experienced in the build at all with the same modus 115 5 to 7? Modus 125 8 to pitching wedge type of scenario?
So you wouldn't really do that. You do that in the wedges, the scoring wedges. You go a little bit heavier for a lot of players where you're not building up as much speed and you're using the weight. But actually, every set of steel shafts that's not a parallel tip, so 99% a taper tip, so they progress in weight from 4 to 5 and a 6 on to 7 iron by a gram and a bit each club. So you are actually getting a progression in weight through the shafts for that specific reason of more control, using the weight in the shorter irons, lighter weight in the long irons to help generate the speed.
Very good. Hi gents, Fred asks, can you help a player increase swing speed with a fitting with the right shaft and club head weight?
Definitely maybe. It's not always, we can make sure that what you have is optimum for speed and control. Sometimes actually something that's too heavy you can actually generate a lot of club head speed with but no efficiency. So it's a bit of a question mark on, you can't just decrease weight and get more speed, but you want to keep timing and strike as strong as possible. So it's a case of balancing that all.
Church of Golf is going to be the last question we answer. But thank you so much for all of the interaction. We really appreciate it. Simon, agreed with your comments on AMT shafts last week. What is your opinion on constant weight versus descending weight?
So, so constant weight is actually the same as it's an ascending weight into the short iron. So descending weight is basically a unitized shaft which is trimmed to length. So it's longer in the 4 iron than a 7 iron, so therefore there's more shaft, therefore it's heavier. that is, again, is never a good thing, because you never need less weight in a short iron than a long iron. That's something you're never going to need. But it's cheaper from a shaft manufacturer's point of view to make a parallel tip, because it's then one blank they've got to produce. Whereas the constant weight is actually an ascending weight set of shafts. So you're keeping the same essentially dead weight profile by, as you trim more off, the heavier shaft takes that into account, hence that's why 99% of shafts are that way.
Very good. David, Brett, Simon, any irons worth me testing coming in the new year?
Well, there's some sort of black mirrors if you want to add to your collection. I'm sure Lilia would like some. I mean, any new irons? I think Proto Concept have got a new one coming. I'd be interested to see what the alleged new blueprint. Obviously, everyone's seen them on pictures of them online. Be interested to see how they perform. Right. Outside of that, whether the Mizunos are any progression on the current models, but I'm not aware of anything earth-shattering.
Okay. But we'd love to see you and Lilia anyway. Fab answer to my question. This is from Church of Golf, and thanks for all of the videos that are excellent, and we'll be turning up for a fitting soon, and you would be welcome anytime. You would be welcome anytime. Well, that about wraps it up.
Yeah. Thank you very much for all the questions.
Yeah, it's been another fantastic show. We here next week? I'm not here next week. I'm in America next week.
Well, I'll be doing I'm sure I'll be doing something. You'll be heckling from the side.
But I'll be heckling from the side. Maybe we should do a live Zoom or something on Monday from while I'm away. Maybe not.
James looks thrilled at the prospect of that.
Maybe not, maybe not. We can take can't
I saw his eyes. Don't you dare. Yeah.
Well, anyway, you have a good show next week. We really are very appreciative of all your interactions and the questions. You stay happy and healthy out there. Enjoy this week. Is there much golf on this week? Anything going on?
They are.
Oh, Hero Challenge, of course.
Hero Challenge, and then South Africa is the SA Open, I think.
Yes,
this weekend.
Exactly.
So,
enjoy that on Sky Sports Golf, and I and Simon will look forward to seeing you all again very soon.